Hey guys, Mark Ferrasci, ProTech Dog Training, and Max. And Max is here because he was being destructive at home. And most of the time that happens because the dog's bored, doesn't have enough structure in his life, and you don't have enough obedience and things set in. So the other thing he's got a problem with being semi-reactive, and I haven't gone out and tested it yet. The main thing you do when you got a dog coming in for reactivity, you try to find out how bad it is by asking questions and things, but the biggest thing is that we've got to get the obedience and everything being here, so subservient to having to stay at your side. And we use a little bit more of the old school compulsion and versives, because we need to teach the dog to be respectful of getting a correction and knowing he's got to do a certain job, and that's what you're expecting of him. When we go out with reactivity, I want to talk about that a little bit today. I've got another customer coming in. I usually shy away from doing lessons and teaching somebody else how to deal with reactivity. And the reason is because your ability to read the animal and to see it before the dog loads up. Okay, you hear a lot of times trainers will talk about the eye contact is really what gets it going. All of a sudden, boom, they flare into reactivity. So they do things with the purely positive, and it's a lot of common sense, a lot of good stuff in that, is getting the dog to learn to look or focus on you instead of what's out there. So you'll see people that have dogs with problems. They'll be going down the trail and here comes another dog. They'll turn their back to the other dog and they'll get the dog to focus on them so that can go by, and that's how they manage the problem of reactivity. But the biggest thing, and I usually do this by myself, and I don't like really showing somebody how to do it because they don't have the skill to read the animal's body language, to know what's happening, and to nip it in the bud before it happens, okay? And then there's basically a trick that I usually do, and I call it floating the bubble. And that means understanding distance and thresholds, okay? So if I am across the field from another dog, my dog's not gonna necessarily load up that fast on another dog. Okay, and if he does, I've got distance to be able to give me what I call distance is my friend, is what I always say. So what I'll do is I'll take my right about turns, and if you were watching my series a week or two ago where I went through the different turns, right about turn, left hand turn, right hand turn, those turns are what we use to teach the dog to stay at our side, okay? And then we go the opposite way and the dog's left behind us, and we might do little taps or suck him in with food or whatever it may be as how we're building the dog. Puppies, we don't really put much corrections on. We just use food. You see me doing that with my click treat stuff. But with a dog like Max, we're going to teach him in our neutral lab here to be subservient to the obedience that he's being conditioned to do. Right about turns, left hand turns, etc. Then we're going to go out in public and we're going to start looking to see where his threshold's at. How fast does he load up on another dog? Is it just excitement that's causing it? He sees another dog from across the park and he gets excited and he starts to go off? Or is it because he's insecure and fearful, which is most of the time 90% the reason the dogs do this, okay? If you think about pack instinct, okay? The dogs live in a pack in the wild and they travel a whole big distance, and that's their territory. Right? Anything that comes into that territory, as far as another dog, another wolf, or wherever it may be, they'll drive that out of that territory. So their instinct is to drive things away from them. They don't want it near them. They're basically acting out of insecurity and fear, and they want to drive it away, right? So that's what I call floating the bubble. How close does that dog have to be before your dog loads up and goes over threshold and reacts, right? So what I will do is I will kind of float my dog towards that, and I will catch the dog's body language, and I'll do a right about turn right before he starts to load up and get him back in tune with me. Remind him he's supposed to be paying attention. I'm subservient to being focused on me and watching me, because you never know what I'm going to do as the pack leader. I may make a right-hand turn. He's got to be watching me all the time, right? And I want to keep it just under threshold. So, in other words, I don't want to go up past threshold and be right, and you can't go over there and just start nailing the dog for going off and thinking that's going to solve your problem. It's not. The dog's adrenaline level and his what I call red level is going to rise, right? Pit bulls have what we call, well, all dogs do to a certain extent, where they have a reactivity level that'll cause them to go off. With pits, the problem is their adrenaline level and their whole instinct is go so high that they don't feel anything after they get to a certain level. That's what we call red level. They don't feel anything. They're not susceptible to corrections because they'll just shut it off, okay? And that's just that breed. But all dogs have this tendency to have that adrenaline level go up, and they go off and they get reactive. They don't feel as much. So if you think you're going to go right to that dog and get past threshold and the dog winds up like that and you're going to be able to correct the dog out of it, there's no way it's going to happen. What you've got to do is start reading the animal and looking for their threshold and when it is, and float that bubble just in and out of that threshold level. Give them a lot of positive on the backside, show them what the right answer is, and then slowly start doing that same pattern, dipping closer and closer as time goes along, and you set these up. You got to set up these training scenarios that allow you to be able to solve the problem. That's why I use environmental so much. And you can do this, there's some trainers out there doing classes with just reactive dogs. It's a big challenge to try to teach that many dogs to not be reactive and to be into that heavy environment. But if it's managed properly, they can get it done, right? So reactivity is something that I usually like to do myself because I have the ability with skill and with time and all this that I've got, and being able to read the animal and knowing where that threshold is at, to be able to set these up where I can actually correct the dog for it and keep him just under threshold, make him learn where the right answer is at to avoid the corrections which we are using in aversive. We're using the old school escape and avoidance, okay? And we kind of mesh this in. I'm going to try to get food as much as I can, try to keep it as positive as I can, because that's really my baseboard nowadays. But at the same time, I have this other trick in my bag of understanding how to put pressure on a dog and how to correct properly where the dog knocks it off, and you don't go over threshold where he spirals so high that now you really can't solve the problem, because there's adrenaline and everything's so high, and depending on the breed, depending on the propensity of the animal, he's not going to be receptive to getting corrected. You're not going to be able to take a baseball bat and go over there and beat it out of him. He's not going to stop. You've got to try to create a conditioning pattern that gives you what you need with the conditioning. That's why we do this neutral lab so much. So we've already got that conditioning set in, so he knows what the right answer is. He knows what the proper thing is that's going to get him praise, and that's going to work now that we go out in public and we start trying to set these scenarios up on him. But there's a risk involved. If you've got a dog that's aggressive with other dogs or reactive with people, people can get bit, dogs can get into fights, and it's my ability at being a professional to be able to not have this happen so I don't injure my animal or the animal that's in my care, right? So that's a risk that I take. I charge more because of that risk, because there's liability involved, right? So, and it's also a lot of skill and knowledge and knowing what I'm doing. Back to what I've talked about before. If you go to a guitar teacher and the guitar teacher's all over the frets and he's just a virtuoso, that's why you're there, to learn from the best. You and your ability is going to take practice. The motor movement's got to set in, your ability to read the animal. It's going to take time for you to get good to the point where you're going to be able to overcome that problem. And that's why I usually like to handle it, okay? So that's just kind of an overview of how I call it floating the bubble. One of these days I can probably get in here and actually show it to you. I've got a customer coming in that I was trying to get in for in-kennel. He wants to take lessons, so I'll go ahead and give him lessons and see if I can try to teach him how to solve the problem. I don't really have much faith in that, because his ability to read the animal is really the key in being able to understand it to the degree that I do, with a lot of experience under my belt dealing with this, right? So, but we'll give her heck, and then when he realizes he can't do it, he can probably bring the dog in for the in-kennel and I can solve it and get it done and over with. So we'll find out. Max, what'd you do to your head, Bubbies? What'd you do to your head? Huh? Yeah. All right, Max, come on. Let's go. All right, hup. And show you what we got going on with Max. And Max is just about ready to go out in public and start working environmental, because we've got enough of the obedience going down. Down. Good. Good. Max, sit. Good boy. That's my boy. Max, down. Good. That's my boy. Yep. Come on, baby. Good boy. Place. Yeah, good boy. Come on, spin that head. Oh, come on. Yes, good boy. Good. We started out with a clicker, and we're now into the yes marker. He understands it enough. And we're just trying to get him enough back-end awareness that he can give us, Max, heel. Nope. Heel. Yeah, your feet aren't on. There you go. Good boy. Good. All right, Max, heel. Good boy. Yay. So Max understands the right about turns, the left-hand turns. He's got enough going on now that we've got enough obedience in him in our neutral lab, in our neutral lab, so that he can start being tested out in the environment. So we're probably going to take him out tomorrow and start our environmental stage. Yes, good boy, good. Max, down. Good boy, that's my boy, good. Good boy, good. Good, Max, sit. Sit, good boy. Good boy. Yay. And Max has lost some weight. He was a little bit overweight. What we want to see on that personal preference, but I don't like a dog being overweight. It's just like us. We're not going to have as much longevity. But I like to see a little concave on the, when he first came in, that was all flat. He was straight down. And now he's got a little concave. He's not showing too much rib at all, and that's okay. I don't think mom and dad want to see him that skinny, but that's okay. With my dogs, a lot of times I like to even see a little rib. Good boy. Sit. Oh, good boy. Good. Down. Good. That's my boy. So Max is doing pretty good all in all. Come on. Yep. Good boy. Come on. Let's go. He's a smart little boy. He likes to work, huh? Max, down. Good boy. You stay. Good. All right, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, talking a little bit about reactivity and reactivity in dogs. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.